Oh, shoot. Okay, hi. That was lagging so long, I thought I wasn't live. But as no one's on to see it, you guys will only catch me goofing around in the reruns. So that's cool. I gotta shut that down because we've got a couple things glitching. Hi, Nick Talkert here with the Historical Fencing Guild. And folks, we've got a lovely bit of stuff planned this week. Last week, I gained a new patron, Miss Ren Contessa, and she made a request about shield sizing for your body, for whoever's watching. So what I did is I went out to the garage and I acquired my collection of shields. Now, they vary. And to cover them, we're going to have to talk about sizing from the smallest buckler I have basically to the largest warboard. As always, if you see me looking off in this general direction, it's because I keep my Facebook Messenger up and running for the people who don't like to chat on YouTube because, privacy issues, whatever. So I'm going to wait. We got one person. Please like and please say something so I know who's here and I know what you guys are about. And we'll get started. It's always hard at the beginning of the stream when I feel like I'm talking to myself. So, anything you guys can give to bounce me back helps. For those of you who are Fence Volume 1, I am working on Volume 2, but that's been slightly delayed due to a contract that I just got, which I'm excited about. We are orbiting the pages of about 54, where you're picking the techniques, to 56. This book gives only the most survey course on shields. The next book will cover more advanced things. We'll talk a little bit about shield bashing and a lot more about operating within a group versus being alone, because that is an aspect of both Western martial arts and modern tactics that really needs to be something people keep in mind, especially when they come back to looking things from a survival standpoint. So, like I said, please mash that like button and share this. I want other people to see what's going on so that they can hop on and ask questions. You don't get a lot of free sword masters just sitting around being like, how can I help you? It's not like it's an Indian telemarketer. Enunciate. Okay. So we're going to start this lovely discussion on shields with what is a shield? Shield is very much a defensive object. Now, I know saying what is a shield seems a little far-fetched because almost everybody can picture one, but they only picture usually one. And if I were to say the shield that everybody pictures, it's Captain America. We a lot of Marvel fans out there, and you're all seeing him with the circle shield. And I have one about that scale that's made of a very different material, largely because vibranium doesn't exist, and if it did, I couldn't afford it. Although anyone out there looking to donate vibranium shields, hit me up in the DMs. All right, folks. Well, while we're waiting, we're going to talk about this. This little dude is my buckler, and this is about the minimal you would consider a shield. It was made for me by Dennis Yakis, also known as Aidan McDougall, and if I outed him, I don't really care. I'm over that. His maker mark, my owner mark. This is one of the few things that has that on it that I didn't make. This is a small defensive buckler. So, remember, the smaller the shield, the more you hold it out. And the way you use a buckler or a center boss, at least initially, in the way they teach, which I use and I don't use, you know me, I pick my way through methods, and I'm checking no new messages already. The way you use it is by strongly presenting it. Now, as you can see, this is a tiny thing in my tiny little hobbit hands, but by holding it out, it provides a tremendous amount of coverage. I'm still in my rolly chair because of sight, but I've tried to pull the camera back a bit to give me a little more room. I'm going to need it. So to be able to pull it here and couch it like you would couch a shield, which you're going to see this motion a lot, it would have to be, 4 times the diameter. And I have things like that. That being said, in the hands of an experienced fencer, this is, if you're an old Macross guy, I know I'm digging deep, but if you're an old Macross guy, Robotech, First Arc, they're getting the SDF-1 and they have point defense shields, these little shields that just scoot around because they don't have enough juice to actually protect the whole thing. That's what this becomes. It's a point defense shield. You basically block out with it, keep it out, shoot and make contact, deflect, use this to ride a blade down. But if I'm here and I strongly present it from a defensive stance, well, I can't even see my computer, so you can't see my face. You can have a shield that's very effective at this size. Now, I'm sorry, the sun just broke through the clouds and I had light. This is one of my favorite bucklers. I love it. I do find it can rotate in some people's hands, but this was made by a very small gentleman with small hands, so it locks in nice for me. We're going to talk about that lock-in because when you are using a buckler, especially one like this, there are 2 ways you really want to approach how a shot comes in. And since I don't have anybody with me, again, I'm in my office / study / workspace, and this is just to make things simpler so YouTube doesn't try to get mad at me for having a picture of the family in the background. If you're opposing it, so if you've punched out with it, and you oppose the sword, you don't want rotation. You don't want a lot of motion. You want that to stop, absorb the blow. And as you can see, these knobs, especially for a fencing sword, which naturally I took all of them back to make room for the thing, it's going to catch and help deflect. It's going to let you rotate that offline, and then you see this? It grinds a little bit. It further guides the sword away from you. I actually did a really interesting video on guiding the sword with Sword Sage years ago. It was fun, but it was also one of the most dangerous things I did because they weren't tipped. And I think I pulled off a pinch parry, which is a thing you don't see often out of reflex. But Sword Sage, if you're watching this, I miss you. Hit me up. When the world comes together, maybe we can get back together. Okay. So you hit, boom. So all this is like a hand parry that doesn't hurt. Now, obviously, this is a homebrew. If you want to use a buckler, especially against synthetics, I'm going to very early get into one of my first product recommendations, one of my favorite products pretty much of all time, and no one's going to see it. So the one person and whoever you are, God bless you for following along and listening to me ramble. Like I said, please, 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 YouTube doesn't always tell me when people are here. Say something. And I'm getting a yes. Am I live? Yes. I am live. Okay. So, always ask questions here. There's no dumb question as long as it's presented earnestly. I have some people who will be like, I'm going to ask something to prove I'm goofy. Okay, you're goofy. I will extend that you're goofy already. But the product I want to recommend, and I'm probably going to have to repeat myself later when more people come into the class, but hey, that happens, is this. This beautiful piece of polypropylene is my much-loved, hard-used, cold steel medieval training buckler. Weighs about 1.5 pounds. And is really, let me show you the construction. Now remember, with all my cold steel stuff, they don't start out orange. This dagger didn't start out orange. I had complaints and requests from people who were watching the guild during practices the videos where we were sparring, saying, "Can you please make your swords easier to see?" And I had considered using a lightsaber app, but I figured this is a lot easier. So, using one of these, which I discussed last week and will be coming back in force next week. This is the Cold Steel Buckler. And if I were making a list of things that anybody who wants to try Western martial arts should just buy as soon as they have something, I'm going to say if you are using a plastic or a poly weapon, okay, buffers to an extent, but this can chew up buffers. You want to match your weapon types. And I'm going to talk about that with the next buckler. We're going to have a buckler comparison because I have something very special just off camera over there. It's for sale by somebody who didn't quite know what it was. And yes, it looks like Ed Wood has come in. You know, take me to Daniel Jackson. Anyway, these are one of the best buys just on the market. I have done everything bad, and you will see there's scuffing on the corners. This edge especially has some mild signs of use and abuse, and that's almost more from it getting chugged because I lost my arm or it not being treated right in the garage. And because it's this kind of plastic, I could take a knife, a sharp knife, or a file, or in some cases even my fingernail, and just sort of scratch that back down to where it's not going to be barbed or anything. But this gives fun, just incredible hand protection. The grip, let me see if I can get you a good angle. Okay, cool. Sorry, I have to think about how to do this. Very Fiore. But anyway, the grip, as you can see, is very positive because not only is it an oval grip, which I'm moving my hand because you need some backlight to see black on black, but it has a slight indent, which means your fingertips lock in if they're smaller, and if your hand's bigger, you go all the way around it. This is probably one of the best things that Cold Steel has ever designed, and I absolutely adore it. I mean, if you're looking for a second, this should be a set. Like, once you have your primary sword picked out poly, you should get one of this set here, and you can often get these two together roughly for between 40 and 50 bucks. It is incredible money well spent. So, and then spray paint it. I'm serious. Throw whatever color you like on it, and you'll notice wherever it's been painted, the paint takes a lot of the hit. I use Krylon, the bonds to plastic. You want primer and paint in one that bonds to plastic. It's about $4 a can, and I use it all the time. But this, again, this is a buckler, so it's going to be held out and traditional. But it also, a lot of times, if you see me fight it, I rotate my grip almost 90 degrees. I get this angle. And this odd 45-degree angle will look really, really familiar to anybody who's seen dropped some game reference materials for the other drop. You look at that, they sit. This is part of the reason. These two sit as a pair. And I don't know if Lynn Thompson is ever going to watch my videos. One, thank you so much for what you've done for the knife community. Two, make a sword like this. I've been begging you. This grip, see, nice, small, light weapon, bit of flex. Compare it with this. You can go all day, all night, bang, bang, bang. Nothing gets hurt. Great equipment, cheap. You should buy these. As long as you're using plastic. But Nick, I'm in a group that doesn't use plastic, you say. Maybe a society that doesn't use plastic. What can I use? Now, there's several methods. I actually have tucked away somewhere. There's pizza pans that have been converted. There's stock pot lids. You can find some stock pot lids that make really good bucklers. But years ago, I acquired something, and we're going to talk about the next size of buckler. And this is this is a late period dueling buckler or dueling shield. Has a very distinctive shape. Just like the little knobs on this one, I'm sorry, the duct tape I used to modify the grip over the years has degraded. Just like there's a little bit of catch here, you have a rotational catch. This is a very aggressive buckler. So you can actually rotate out and sort of high shield, and you see it automatically makes this gutter. Here, we'll use this. Now, I'm going to show you why I don't use this kind of thing on this and slide it away. Now, what this shield needs is some kind of either tubing, or there's an automotive sealing coil thing, not sealing as in roof, but sealing as in keeping things out, that slides over sheet metal for doors to keep doors watertight. I'd love to get some of that put around. I just haven't seen a roll in a while. But this is my primary hardcore fencing buckler. So if I was going into a melee with a buckler, this, don't know what just fell. Oh, we'll figure it out. This buckler, okay, now I know it fell. Okay, is more of a personal defense buckler. It's light. You can put it on like one of those mug hangers, hang it from your belt. It's there till you need it. And you have to think that way. This is essentially a concealed carry buckler. Because civilian contact. I can brass knuckle for days with this. A little bit of edge work you can hit with the edge. Especially grab it. It sounds funny, grab it like that and just donk. With practice, this becomes a very brutal, practical self-defense weapon, which we don't usually train, but it is really, really useful for, like I said, for self-defense applications. Now this is a business buckler. I don't want to have to wear this on my hip all day, I might strap it and hang it, but this is going to be a much more pronounced. This is what I would consider the bottom end of a shield. Now, shields, especially center boss shields, are very popular with Viking personas. They're very popular with dynamic sword and board fighters. So the guys who are going out, and that's because I've got this because it's handy here. Okay. And despite being my lightest poly, this isn't a bad design for a sword board. You don't have extended quillions, so they won't tangle. You can fight tight. You can get that nice A-frame guard. Very little motion protects. You can open up and hit. This is a good dynamic style. You can extend this. You can pull it back. Now note the scaling. Okay. Now I'm standing up because you don't need to see my face. This covers just the only thing it gaps is my elbow right here, which you'll see when I talk about fighting bucklers, because in part for the FCA, that was the legal. Look at this picture. You see that target? The second sweet spot, about halfway down, that blue arrow? On the stick figure, because stick figures are our friends. Right there, that's where a lot of people are going to pop you. But if I extend it and angle it, a very aggressive angle, I'm holding it like this. My thumb is actually locking it in position. Now, this buckler just had a grip very much like a garage pull. And all I did was I grabbed a bit of wood I was going to make a hilt, duct taped it on, and left it for 12 years. Maybe longer. Okay, so now I have a very stout, my middle road is pretty close. The only way they're really likely to get me is with a rising shot. And if I do that, it opens the top but drops at very minimal effort because I'm couching it like you should couch a shield. Now, I have another shield, and I'm going to talk about the strapping of shields, about what's right and what's wrong with how shields should be strapped versus how they shouldn't. And then I will show you probably the coolest strapping I've ever had on a shield. One of my favorites, but the whole thing won't fit in the lovely camera space. So it'll be interesting. And as always, please, 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 please shoot me comments. Smash that like button. For me, it's up here. I don't know if it is for you. But hit the like button. It's more scared of you than you are of it. That's going to let YouTube know that I'm doing something cool. And that's what I want. I want folks to know that there's free education in this art, or low cost if they're kind enough to buy my book. Although the Simple Sword has now been as part of my, hey, the coronavirus thingy stinks. I put that into Kindle Unlimited. So if you've got the Kindle Unlimited service, you can read The Simple Sword for free, and I'll get a pittance of a royalty by page view. So be sure to look through, read the whole thing, because that comes back to me a few cents, and even that's how you give back. But we'll talk about plugging my stuff a little later. Now, I'm going to keep right on rolling through because, like I said, I don't have anybody chatting with me yet. So we're just going to make this work. And if I spend a whole hour and nobody comments, then I'll hop off and I'll do something else. But while we're going, we're going to keep going right on down the line by size. And that means... well, something longtime guildies have seen a lot. My riot shield. It's like, Nick, a riot shield? This is the historical fencing guild. What are you doing? Historically, if they had something as sturdy as this to train with, they would have used it. And that's my policy. It straps. Boom, boom. This was a gift from James Robertson. Unfortunately, like most of my gear, it's a little dusty right now. Now, there's a little bit of give. But this is almost exactly the scale a round shield should be for me. It goes from my chin to my natural waist, just about. I've got a little bit more in the middle, throwing some figures off there. Covers the bend of my elbow and just a little bit when couched. And remember, I'm couching it. I'm holding it like almost like you grab a lance. I'm using body mechanics to hold the weight. I'll show you another shield that's a little different for that. But this lets me keep this shield where it needs to be. And I'm going to have to sit down just to go back into to work. But that's okay. This is not the first time I've looked into seated shield work, because I've been working on systems in case anybody I know in a wheelchair needs to know how to make a shield go. I have a friend online I'm working on a bit of a write-up for if they're interested. So we'll talk about that later. All right. The neat thing about shield is very simple. There are some things you don't want to do, especially with a round shield. You don't want to table your shield, okay? There is a temptation, especially as the fights go on, especially if you're fighting somebody taller or they favor downward shots, to break your form and not see if I need to stop blows that are raining down on me, which, let's be honest, is the majority of my fighting style. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm fighting taller dude. Hi, John. Okay. If I go like this, there's a temptation. You've seen the Captain America roll, which is always scary how he can get almost his whole body under a little shield like this. I think there's more like elasticity in his joints than anybody wants to talk about. Anyway, if I couch under, I am completely vulnerable. I'm going to stand up again to show you, keeping the same stance. All of a sudden, all this protection, because I still have moderate protection, it's gone. So if somebody throws a shot that comes here, rises up into my armpit, I'm going to have a bad day. So we don't want me to have a bad day because I don't like getting hit. I like teaching people and I like sword fighting, but I don't want to get hit if I can avoid it. So, sorry. I left my drink outside. And this, I want to comment. When people say historical martial arts are dated, the training is out of date, I want to point out police agencies use shields very similar to this. And it has the benefit of I can shroud and I can still see you. Hi. How many fingers am I holding up? Oh, no. But, so this, in a riot control situation, in a crowd control situation to prevent it from being a riot, for a mobile individual, especially somebody who's got to huff it, this thing barely weighs. I'd be surprised if it weighs a pound. It is incredibly light, and even more so when properly, very easy, very fast. It's a Velcro tie down, just this natural grip. Jim has a bit of trouble because he didn't take his apart to restrap it for a lefty, and honestly, I don't know if you can. Well, maybe. I'm looking at it. But it has padding for the part that gets impacted. These are very sturdy. You're seeing all these scratches from years of hitting it with axes and stuff. Boom, boom, boom. Relatively cheap. I have seen these, from 30. I've seen them upwards of 50. This is another great thing to put in your group if you're studying Western martial arts, but you're not in a group that's hung up with authenticity. You want to be able to make weapons go. This is great. These are amazing for the backyard, dude. And in this day and age, I can't see a reason not to have a handy little riot shield, just in case, you're attacked by locusts on the way to the mailbox. Sure. I'm saying. All right. Moving right along, we're almost at the half-hour line, where I will break for station identification and information. We're going to get into a tale of two shields. Now, yeah, because we're going by side. Actually, no. We're going to hold off the tale of two shields. We're going to go, because I was talking about that lovely riot shield, and what I didn't talk about, I went down to the garage when I was doing this, and I grabbed something. What did I grab? Well, you see, I grabbed my wife's shield. Yeah, my wife has shields. She's awesome. This is a round shield. Not only is this a round shield, this is a properly strapped, fitted, SCA legal at last time I checked, round shield. It weighs a lot more than that, but not ever as heavy as you would think. This is spun aluminum. So this is roughly the thickness. It's a little thicker, it's a little higher grade than your average stop sign, but that gives you the idea of the material you're looking at. Now, if I get up, this is a great shield for me. This covers my outer flank, covers back. With very little, I can rotate down, and it covers, but by partially. Let me see if I can get this to come down. Okay, my camera won't go any lower. But what it does, let me do this, is it actually, this butts up to the top of my knee. So what that means is I can block a low shot and be back up on guard very fast. A lot of it has to do with the strapping, and we're going to talk. I want you to see the strapping on this. It is not straight across, and I will show you a shield that is, why I hate that style of strapping, and why I'm just going to have to drill more holes in it and fix it one of these days. By having it's very nice. This is a leather strap. This is a leather strap. Twine of some sort has been wrapped tightly around it in layers, like you'd wrap a hilt to keep it from sliding, giving it this really positive, very nice grip. Now, it seems a bit big, but this is all set for wearing either a demi-gaunt, which is a half gaunt, or even a full gauntlet. And there's one extension hole here. If you're wearing bulky gauntlets, you could actually undo that. I wouldn't, but you could. Loosen it up for bigger hands and be ready to go. The strap is about middle of my forearm here. Okay? And it looks ridiculous extended like this. That's good. Because the shield isn't about looking good. It's about working good. As soon as you bend the elbow, a lot of the weight couches right into your hand. The stability couches here. And a lot of times you keep the bottom of the shield pulled in tight. So again, we're pulled in tight. Now I'm really, really safe. The only threat people really have at me is from my knee to my shins, or popping my head or my offside hand. So if we use a very traditional SCA fighting stance, and we have a nice wrap guard, which I have. Does it still happen here? I thought I did. Probably do, and it's just buried. Yes, I am capable of losing whole swords in my work area. Shop. Anyhow, this gives a lot of protection, hand protection. That's why they're popular. That's why shields were well loved throughout the melee weapon periods. We're talking from prehistory, where ancient history, shields were loved. Now the Germanic people tended towards round shields or teardrops. The our buddies the Romans used the scutum, which was a more rectangular curved. Think of the side of a barrel like shaped shield to great effect. But shields were very popular. This is how you turn an infantryman into a tank. A little bit of good body armor, shield, helmet. This is a creature that's very difficult to beat. You really don't want to have to try to fight these guys unarmed. And I do believe movies constantly undervalue the effectiveness of proper arms and armor. If it was that easy to just cut through shields like you see, cut through armor, people wouldn't bother wearing it. Because it can be heavy, it's rarely comfortable in heat. But if they're wearing it and they're doing it constantly, lives are being saved. So this is home. This is also probably the largest I'd want to go with a normal shield under normal situations for me. But we've gone largely to bucklers, and we've stuck to round shields. So now we're going to get to a tale of two shields. And once I finish that, I'll do a bit of announcement. We'll check to see if anybody else is on. Let me pull you back up. Get a little more light on the situation. Tale of two shields. We're going to talk about heaters. Not the kind that keep you warm. Heater shields. Now, I adore this shield. I adore the scale of it. I adore the fact that it extends much lower. So this covers down to my knee without the added weight. So I can throw, we get something short. I have a lot of mobility in what I can do, without having to open the door. This closes up my middle road. This is great. It just has one stupid flaw. The guy who strapped it strapped it linear, strapped it sideways. Now, what I need to do is essentially move this down about that far, that down, and the equivalent that far. I don't want to go much higher up than this because I don't want my hand exposed. But this is just a belt style rig. Ooh, that is really loose. I must have been messing with it lately. But it's adjustable. It works. It protects. Gee, I would never leave it loose. It must have been borrowed. That's the problem with having a lot of students. Over the years, they tend to neglect your stuff. So to couch it puts that point way out. Not terrible, but not where I want it. And to hold it naturally, or holding it and it was rigged right, it would sit like this. And my hand would be here. But as you can see, the straps aren't where they need to be. Still, this was inherited, and I love it, so this is going to get straightened out, maybe by summer practices. But this is a heater, essentially, shaped shield. Okay? It's roughly my shoulder width, and it's roughly like if somebody just made a Ninja Turtle costume for me. Ignoring a bit of the love handle here, covers down to the crotch, and it's shoulder width. That gives you a wonderful scale. I could almost fight with it strapped like a chest plate. Not quite, which is good. And yes, the tape that I used haphazardly to hold the tubing like the other shoe needs has been worn out, and I need to replace it. Guys, my gear isn't show gear. This isn't museum quality. What I do is I find the most economical way to do something, and I use it as long as it works. So we're going to put that shield down. It's not forgotten. It's just out of the way to show you another shield and to show you a couple important things. Now, this is actually a wooden shield. This is a very pretty shield. This was given to me because I was the most likely person to find a good home for it. And I have no idea how old it is. It has a couple quirks that I need to adjust before I let somebody use it. Like this little screw needs to either be popped out and replaced with something shorter. I think it just lost the nut and covering. But it's actually padded. It's a beautiful shield. And again, this is an older style strapping that I haven't played with in a while, so it's a little stiff. But this is to give to distribute the force from the strap onto your, well, you can't see what I'm doing, your hand. So this is just a guard flap, and this is going to go in there. And then when you have it strapped, we'll just do that. It's going to sit like this. Now this shield is, I am so small a person that this shield, which was intended for heavy fighter children almost, actually is quite usable for me. I find myself wishing it had about 2 inches on either side of the V. And because it is strung as it is, at that proper angle, it's supported. So this is really what's going to park and make things better for me. But, Nick, dropping things. Close quarters in the old studio. Do you see, because I realize you guys probably should see a side by side. And I could do a graphic, but I don't have fancy OBS knowledge like Brian K. Morris of Rising Tide Publishing, who you should follow anyway because he's a good guy. You see the difference of angle? This is so much lower. Don't get fooled by this. Relative to this. This is going to keep it comfortable and let you hold the weight longer. This will actually tire you out more. And even though that weighs slightly more than this old wood beast, it tires you more. And that's one thing about arms and armor. You always have to think in terms of weight. Now, a heavier shield, if you can schlep it, has some advantages in that a heavier shield is going to absorb the blows better. So, whereas this is a very light shield. I mean, this is a light, it's near indestructible, but it is light. Give me a second. It doesn't innately absorb the blows. So the force can kick it around a bit like a sail. Why that's a problem is, and I didn't bring an axe up. Okie dokie. If your opponent has a weapon like an axe or a billhook, or even something as silly as, whoop, I'm tangled here, so give me a second, a murder stroke. Okay, you can hook a shield and open it up. Now, one-on-one, that's not bad, but shields work best, and I still will say this, in a shield wall, in a line of shieldmen. So what you do is you put people with shields and a relatively short weapon, short sword kind of thing, here. Standing behind them, you have your spearmen. And I have no idea how I'm going to do a video on spearmen in here. I may have to actually not be able to do that one live because right now YouTube isn't letting me stream live from my phone. It only lets me stream live from my PC, which is why we're in my art studio, dropping my pens all over the place. But you can and that's what you have to think in terms. When we start getting line combat, one person is an opener. There might be a guy with a little hook on a stick, essentially, just open the shield. Somebody else pops the dude. And a good team can do that. And they'll reach right across their shields. So your shield with your buddy side by side is making a wall. So literally just a portable wall. And letting them snipe. Behind them, you have archers. Whoop! And they're... We're going to stop. We're going to talk about archers for a second. This isn't on topic, but I think it's valid, useful stuff. And I think you will find it to be very beneficial. Archers in medieval tactics were not largely snipers. Okay. There's this misconception of Legolas, like, I'm going to flip that guy. And that's great. But that guy isn't stupid enough to be in a straight line usually. So a lot of time archers would volley fire where you'd have a whole rows and rows of them. A little box. So like a 10 by 10, 10 rows, 10 archers. And you can shrink it, play with it, but that gives you a number you can roll. And they just figure out the relative range. They have a commander, somebody say, the bad guy is 30 yards past the shield wall. The archers go, okay, whoop. They're artillery. Arcing fire over the wall, rain difficulty. Maybe over. Now, once they get elevated into matriculations, they're on a tower, they're on something, then they can pull back down to a much more sniper-like role where they're popping people. And that's where the two-finger salute really kind of has its origin in England, because that is the gesture of a poor individual reminding a lord at the time that I still can draw a bow. Just think, medieval Second Amendment, I can still draw a bow. Pow! That's why these fingers got cut off on people who misbehaved at different points in history. Now we've gone through some sordid history. I've been talking for 44 minutes, almost 45, so I'm going to break, talk about my sponsors. First off, I want to publicly, and as always, thank my patrons. Oh, cool, the Christmas light just came on. Steve Augusto, Nemo Smith, and of course my newest patron, Ren Contessa, whose question last week about setting a shield size was what's the reason for this video. If you want stuff, I will answer your comments to the best of my ability almost always. But I will say this. If you're a patron and you say, Nick, do a video on something, dagger fighting in the Middle Ages, or, agricultural weapons, or the glaive in 3 or 4 different cultures, something that interests you, that's in my capacity, that's going to get bumped to the head of the line. Because I actually put off a lot of the how to fight a shield and how to fight, because one of my patrons asked, that's how patronage works. I am an artist when I'm not doing this, and when I'm doing this. I get paid to draw people things. I get paid to design games for people. The people who pay me are my patrons. In the classic sense, the ones who go on patreon.com, look up the Historical Fencing Guild, are going to get access to early versions of the Simple Sword. I'm sorry, the Strong Sword. That I am trying to get the videos downloaded from the YouTube channel so that they'll be up as a downloadable on the Patreon. Right now, they can get the 1 hour your input, and the more you're willing to put into me, the far more I'm willing to give back. So I am going to show something else off. I have to do one more plug. If you go to Amazon.com/author/Nicholas Tucker, you will find my complete published works, at least through Amazon. The Simple Sword, the Big Stumpy Robots, and a few other little surprises, including Melee, a tactics game I designed for teaching medieval commanders a way of handling their troops that can be customized to fit their, at the time, households, which was an SCA term. And, so if you're in a LARP, you can actually basically condense the people you command into a simplified form, make the mini, and you can work with that to figure out how you want to place them and play a game. It's wonderful for armchair generals, and I developed it and I tested it, and it was something, one of the last things I got to work with a dear friend of mine who passed. So it's a memorial to the glory of a man named Jesse Tibbetts. May he rest in peace, who made everyone's life better who knew him. But moving on. Nick, those shields were pretty cool and all, but thought you said you had one you couldn't fit on camera. You're right. Sorry. It's also my favorite strap shield of all time. Oh, yeah, let's see now. Got me my chair. This is my warboard. I'm just trying to get it up so that you can see how big it is. It goes from my shoulders to my chin. And I don't use it a lot in practices because it is cheating. I can protect myself and 2 other people if they're used to line movement. What I mean is, I can take hold of this, strap it up. Oh, God, it's so nice. And this thing is heavy. This thing is a beast. We're talking 5-10 pounds easy. I really need to weigh this rig, but if I stand up, there's no hitting me unless I come out from behind it. But it extends so far back that a smaller friend or slender friend can duck and get half concealment easy. I can have somebody right here, if I park and semi-snipe right here, at the end, or I use an axe that doesn't take much backspace, I can defend a 3-man group, myself included, with this beast. And I can hold it up just about all day because of how it's strapped. We're going to show this off. Okay. Oh. Woo! Had to back into the backdrop for that one. Now, this is strapped. There we go. Hi. I don't feel the least bit ridiculous. This is strapped ambidextrous so that anybody in my group can pick it up, throw it on, and go to town. Lefties like Jim can rock it. Just pop it right through there. Righties, like me usually, park it left-handed. This thing is a portable wall. And when I take a slightly low guard, the tip touches the ground. It literally is a portable wall. This is a weapon of warfare. This has broad, it is inconvenient. This requires support to be able to use, to be able to carry. Like, I don't even think I could strap this on my back. Well, I suppose I could. But I'm going to look smaller than, Link from Zelda. This beast is incredible. But impractical in a lot of situations. For example, I'm sitting in a chair comfortably. I'm only holding it up. The tip is held on the ground. This beautiful beast of a shield is a pain to move around in a house. And that gets back to something I talk about regularly when I talk to people. I'm going to do something really cheater. This is a heater. That means it has a point on the bottom and the top is flat. It's all got a nice curve to it. So it will stand up. This weapon, this weapon system, this defensive system, it is a weapon of war. It's impractical for self-defense. In the Middle Ages, could I walk around town carrying this thing? Yeah, but do I want to try to maneuver it in a narrow alleyway, indoors, in a bar, in a stable, trying to get on and off my horse or my mule or whatever? It's excessive. This little dude is the mirror opposite. It is so tiny that it has to be a concealed carry shield. In that, I could easily strap this and hang it in a sorry, the idea of holstering this thing inside a captain's coat delights me. And if it were a metal, flatter kind of rig, it would be even easier. This is a 25 ACP of a shield, and that's a Barrett 50 cal. But they serve similar job in different ways, in different settings. So when you're looking at what sword you're carrying, what sword is the best for a situation, make sure you pick one, say, like this. And I will plug this. I get no money back. What I got for designing this was the second one with the pommel free. But my pride as a designer and my American support folks support Purple Heart Armory. They're a Texan firm. They're American. They're making something that most people would consider a luxury. In this time, if you're going to throw money at something a bit silly with your tax check, keep these guys in mind. And this is still one of the best products on the market. I love it. Is it perfect? No. There are some things I would change if I could wave them on. The guard, if it could be expanded and dished out into a proper cup, I would just lose bodily control over. And I would personally like to be able to have the grip about a quarter of an inch narrower, if that. Maybe just, it sounds stupid, but maybe a couple eighths. I've been tempted to cut the grip off and put tape just to see if that would buy the difference for my tiny, tiny hobbit hands. But look at all that space. I can dual wield this. That means somebody like my buddy, the secret chef, could easily grab one of these. It is big enough that a gauntleted, by modern, like a lacrosse glove or a Red Dragon Armory, HEMA gauntlet will fit great. And this couples well with a shield. I would say, if you're worried about getting these going with a Venetian, which is basically this rig, very similar without the Quillians, might not be a bad idea. But it's also short enough that I can carry this indoors. I can swing this in most rooms, and it's in the hallways I can hold my own using more thrust and less cut. So we have been talking in that I have been babbling on for the last 57 minutes and some change. That's nearly an hour. As is my rule, I will stay on for the next 3 or 4 more minutes, and I will answer any questions you have for free on the subject, including, hey, Nick, you didn't tell me how to get past them. Well, dang. Dang. I guess I'm going to have to keep talking then. Alrighty. You guys talked me into it. Getting past the shield. Now, if you're getting past a warboard, you need to be able to be aggressive enough to go shield to shield. You need to be able to run right up, and then you're going to want to do what's called a wrap shot. A lot of heavy fighting is not, it sounds counterintuitive, but you'll have to bear with me, is not the hits you're thinking. A wrap shot. Let me see if I don't know if I can demonstrate that what one looks like here, but it's a shot that comes. Okay, I gotta go just a little farther back. Go. The tightness of these quarters is funny, but a wrap shot goes around, snaps back, and then hits here. So what do I have that I can use to wrap? I'm not wrapping a guitar. Okay, cool. We'll do this. Give me a second. Okay. Person. If I go wrap shot hit, I'm hitting the back of the head, the back of the neck, the cervical vertebrae. This is a game ender. This is why gorgets are so important. You look at like the Red Dragon gorget has this wonderful bib, all this padding. It's great for fencing, but if you're closing in like 2 armored gauntlets, Goliaths, just those wrap shots, it doesn't give that enough protection. You need to make sure your back and neck is protected. That's why fencers in the SCA wear hoods, in part. That's why heavies have such religious grade helmet and neck covering rules, because you can paralyze somebody even with training gear. Wrap shots are period. Sorry, one of my shields is trying to get in the way. Wrap shots are deadly. They're effective, and that's one of the prime ways. Now, the other ways are like I showed you. We're going to get the shield back out. And I'm going to use this because, well, 1, it is a lot lighter, and 2, you can see through it. Okay? Now, this shoulder is protected. If you feint low, which a feint is a fake shot, always do your fake shots with enough ability to follow through if they go through. It's a thing. But as soon as I drop to do that, this lovely gap opens up right here. Can't hit me, boom. You pop me in the shoulder, I can't use this arm anymore. Not just by the conventions of some groups, but mechanically. If you mess up these tendons holding things up, especially get a good chunk of that bicep, these tendons, you're going to have problems. If you can manage to get a shot into the armpit, it's going to be fatal. You have enough arteries, you have enough blood flow in this area that it is incredibly vulnerable. So a rising shot into here is really going to mess somebody up. And there's a nerve cluster, so it really can hurt if you do it right or wrong, depending on your calibration and situation. The other is if their shield doesn't fit, so I'm going to kind of fake it. This exposed elbow, if you see one of those, what you want to do is bait a far shot. So you're going to come in from your perspective second, and then flip shot into fourth. Okay, and it's going to convey your target from here, see over to here. Why? Because I'm going to go, nope, oh, bam, opens back up. Now the other way is through circling, and I can I'll bring up the fancy graphic in my thing. But what you want to do is the middle road still exists with the sword and shield. You want to get them to open that door. And you can do it by high shots because you can't see the shield. They've got to get it, either have faith in their style to not get hit, or they have to open the door so they can see. Well, as soon as they're going, hey, is it safe? You should be coming in. No, it's not. Oh, well. All right, bam. There are several phrases that run to mind for that situation. None of them are appropriate for this channel. But it's usually something blued and tattooed. You do the math. Whoop. Okay, so you want to open that door. Now, the one thing is, if I'm here and I'm in a rolly chair, so I can pivot real pretty. This is pretty. When you're not in a rolly chair, what happens is sword, body, shield square up. People who aren't adept at keeping their weapons in, working together, working in conjunction. They're going, this is a sword and this is a shield, and they do their thing. People want them to be separate. Our brains don't usually work that well separate. There's always a sort of, in my mind, a string that runs between our wrists. If you watch the way people move, it affects things. There's a string, same string usually runs between our wrists and our ankles, in that you look at how you're running and you're almost always crossed. So if my right arm is back, my right leg is usually forward. That's just the locomotion of humanity. You can use that. So if you can press to them, and you should be pressing to the sword side anyway, unless you're really fast and you can dart around. Now, if you're fast and you can pivot on their shield to get around and get this happy area over here, groovy, go for it. But a lot of times what you have to do is get the turtle to stick his neck out. The turtle sticks his neck out. Again, remember this? Hey, that sounds familiar from last week. Get that chunk of forearm, folks. The forearm is an underappreciated target for weapon styles. Grappling, too. If you can get a hold of that forearm, you can do bad things to people. And that's what we're all about. Doing bad things to people before they do to you. Anyhow. So, it is an hour 5. I've given you some discussion on how to fight a shield. Weapon recommendations. There is a Cold Steel Rotella. I think Cold Steel made it. There's a synthetic Rotella out there, which is a domed round shield that I haven't got to play with because it's beyond my current price range. But I might just save up and get one after. And, we'll get into the other thing I want feedback on. And I'm going to ask you guys this. And I'm going to check if I have any messages on my messenger feed, which that looks like a big nada. What's with the white boot? Okay, it's somebody new to the channel. The white boot. is, God, that's a pain. The white boot is a logo I took for myself based on when I was in the SCA. I've told the story before, but people don't always deep dive, so I'll tell it again. I don't have anybody here to tell me not to. Years and years and years ago, and about 150 pounds ago, maybe more, I was a very young, very ambitious swordsman in a group called the Historical Fencing Guild. No, I'm sorry. In a group called the Society for Creative Anachronism. The guild came later, but and I had been doing what fighters do and working real hard and helping out for a long time. And I had done some stuff for events, and that's what you do in that group. They you end up doing a lot of service. You do a lot of work. Some people it's worth it, some people it's not. I have been disillusioned of that dream, but I don't punish the dreamers, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, just let it go. But I was new to it, and I didn't know a lot of things were going on, and we were at court. And court's a grand deal. You have the king and queen who've won, the king wins the position through tourney, and it's a big deal. And they're way up front, and they're happy thrones, and they've got spearmen on either side looking very grim and dour and vaguely threatening. And you got me. And you really can't imagine, if you've seen me now, fully what that long-haired leaping gnome that I used to be looked like. But just a beanpole, right? In leggings, nice tunic my wife made me the time she was my girlfriend, and these white knee-high boots that she got for me. And I absolutely adored those boots. They were cool. They were white knee-high, will fold, just like you want. The heels were a little clacky. And it's stuff medievalists get away with that make you look like a cross-dresser in any other situation. But I wasn't. It was just, that was the period. And they were fun. But I'm sitting waiting, and they call me to come up. Call my other name that I don't use anymore. Because you get one of those in that group. I know it sounds kind of culty. Jury's out on that, but it's fun. It can be fun letting that go. But they call me, and I'm like, okay. And it's like, no, you got no weapons. Now, I hit college from a very, very bad time in my life. And, high school for me was not unpleasant. It was at points nightmarish. And that's not exaggeration or hyperbole. So I never went anywhere unarmed. And I was proportionately armed to the situation, being that the more knives, etc., that other people were likely to have, the more I had. And they knew it. So, John, he asked me, you gotta give me weapons. I'm like, okay, obvious dagger, obvious thing. If you say so, no, you have to give me all your weapons. Oh, I think Amanda said that anyhow. I stop, out comes some more. His hand wraps around my head, because you do not understand how big John is. His hand wraps around. All your weapons, boy. I'm pulling daggers out, and this pile is just, because I think I had probably a dozen knives on me at that point. And I'd authorized that day, I think. I think it was the day I authorized, but I get pulled up, and I'm walking, and when there are awards given, people shout their names, and there's muttering, and everybody's, oh yeah, who's on? Having to fight to be quiet, usually. But this time was different. Everybody was dead silent. And earlier in the day, I had somebody nearly walk over me due to height difference. And they had backed over and their sheath had come up between my legs, which Red Fair goers have seen things like this. And it nearly like high crushed me. Turn around, it's the bloody king. So, bow politely, zang out of there. So now I'm getting called up. I'm thinking I'm in trouble. And to their credit, the guards looked impressively threatening. The problem was they didn't realize, because of my background, just how serious I was taking it. And I was sitting there thinking, if they flinch, I can't get away from them backwards, but they're not going to expect me to advance in their range. So I'm looking at the king, and he's got these two windows that are open. And honest to all that's holy, I'm planning to run right up that expletive and go out the window, and I'm thinking I can make it the 2 blocks to society, and if I'm screaming my head off, the cops will get me before these guys can skewer me. I was in full panic. I'm walking up. I am alone in the world. And it was, ironically, despite my background, one of the more terrifying events of my life, because I just didn't know. And I get there. They make you like put one knee down, kind of thing, and they say, basically they give me spiel, giving me my first award, that I'd done good service for the crown, and they gave me my award of arms, and it was a big deal. Everybody's cheering, and it's all beautiful. And I'm smiling because I'm a good-natured sort, and I was much more a good-natured sort outwardly than I am now, and much more uneasy inwardly than I am now. It's a trade-off. But went back, and everybody's smiling and laughing, and I'm like, I want my knives back. And as I'm walking back, I could feel my ankle a little chapped, and I realized they missed one. Pulled like 12 knives out, missed one. To this day, it is something I'm proud of. But I never forget what it's to feel like to be the little guy, all alone, who doesn't know what's going on, is scared just, to your core. And if you ask me what I'm about, I'm about being the guy that I didn't have at the times when I needed him. Be the person that you'd want in that situation. And I watch people, they go from really great people, they get some awards under their belt, and they lose their way. I watched it happen over and over again. And you pick a device, and I never registered mine properly, whatever. But it's trademarked now. I mean, this is copyright. That's my logo in the real world, so it'll get ugly. But the white boot, it's about a few things. It's about that moment. That's why it's a white boot. It's about never being the guy, never letting somebody else be that guy, never letting someone be that horribly terrified, that uncomfortable, not knowing when you could easily reach up and go, it's okay. And the other thing about wearing white boots, I found you can't get down in the mud because it shows instantly. You got to rise above. You got to be about trying to walk that. You're gonna goof up, and when you goof up, it will show. It'll show to the world. It'll show to you. So you do your best to clean off, and you keep going. So that sort of became my maker's mark. And every time I put it on something, every time I look up and I see it, it's in the corner right now. It reminds me to always try to be humble, because you were that kid. And if things go wrong, you could end up that kid again. So that, my friends, is a rather long-winded explanation on why I use the white boot as my logo. And it's on most of my things. It's something I'm proud of. And yet it humbles me, which is strange. How do I phrase this? When I wear a cross to remind myself the weight of my sins. And that God's there for me. Not trying to get religious. I don't usually do that on this channel. But that's why when I wear a cross. And I usually have a cross, my neck, you can't see it, but there's a tiny cross etched in it. Reminder, That's not just about it being like a talisman. There are aspects of that always, but it's more important. There's the weight around you should remind you of your failings, so you try to be better. The logo, the fly guy fly, is I used to be scared, and I don't want anyone else to be that way. And so I do everything I can to try to help them. And sometimes I goof up, but at least I know I'm trying. I'm trying to keep the boot white, keep it clean. So yeah, there's that. Okay, we have 2 viewers. I'm an hour 16 into this, and I'm no likes. So please, guys, if this interests you, me bearing my soul randomly on the internet, smash that like button for me. Leave a comment. If not, pretty soon I'm going to cut out because I've been talking to empty air for an hour 15, hour 16, and that can be kind of trying. So, well, if you like what I'm doing and you like watching the sword fighting and you like hearing about theories, consider subscribing to the Historical Fencing Guild. If you want to learn the techniques, please, by all means, get on Amazon, pick up The Simple Sword by Nicholas A. Tucker. If you really like what I'm doing and you want to help out, go to the Patreon. It will be in the gobbledygook that I put at the end of videos. Be there. This week's item suggestions, if I can find them, is this round riot shield. Now, I don't know if this came through Wish or not, so it might be a little tricky to get a hold of, but it's held and taken a beating very well. I need to, so I think most people should have one of those. Let it tank. The cold steel buckler, remember, it will be black. You need to repaint it. Or just so you can see it. This is, again, around between 25 and 40 bucks. Buy one. Seriously, if you're into Western martial arts, just lay down the money. You can get, I've gotten these for as cheap as like $8. I think 12 is about normal. Seriously, get yourself this set. If you're really interested, I can talk about how I modified this into this. There's a video floating around. It's really simple. It's just a cutout piece of HDPE and black electrical tape has held. It was supposed to be a temporary measure, but after it lasts a few years, is it temporary? Wonderful, wonderful fighting tools. We will be going in depth into dagger fighting, two-handed dagger fighting, dual dagger, knife burst dagger. That's my plan for next week. And then again, what that means and how to fight that kind of individual. Getting back to shieldmen, I realized I missed one point I wanted to cover. Shields usually limit mobility a touch because they can impede how much stride length people have. That means they are going to be one of the slower people to advance. You need to keep that in mind for your shield wall, and keep that in mind when you're fighting. They can't keep up with you, so you want to harry them if you have room. And if you're alone, take them from the edges. Basic tactics. We're at an hour 20, and folks, I just hope you're holding up okay. I hope you're surviving the apocalypse that's people say is happening. It's going to get better, and in part because we're going to make it better. If you have questions, you have comments, even though this live stream is coming to a close, please, I literally beg you, throw them up. I will try to address them next week. I will respond. I am very, very good about responding to that. And if you want a topic, you want something discussed, or you want me to do a video like ahead of time, I'm not able to host practices right now, so I want to be able to serve the community best I can. And with that, well, folks, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your interest. And as always, support your local swordmaster.